Hello and welcome to this small film about Celtic crosses. A cross with a circle, usually depicted with Celtic style designs. The older versions of Celtic crosses had the cross etched onto them. Then later, as Celtic crosses spread across the land and stonework became more stylised, the stonemason learnt how to cut the cross and circle out of the stone. The Celtic crosses in this film come from sites on the Isle of Man. Some are from St Michael's Church, and the ones in the shed-type structure are from Kirkmagod Cross House. There are various legends about the Celtic crosses. Some say St Patrick brought them to this country when he was converting the pagans to Christianity, which is why there are the pagan Celtic type designs on them. We know very little about the Celts and their lifestyles, and so there is not much information on what the Celtic cross meant to them. Symbolism is an expression of something, whether it is personal or for all to understand. On the Isle of Man, these Celtic crosses could well have been made by the Vikings, who invaded the land many centuries ago, implanting their Viking ways with Christianity. Many Vikings who lived on the Isle converted to Christianity and intermingled their own artwork from their old cultures with their new Christian beliefs. When looking at the Celtic cross, one can see there are 4 branches. Do the 4 branches on these crosses have meaning? For example, earth, air, fire and water. Perhaps they are relevant to the 4 seasons: winter, summer, autumn, spring, which would have been a very important part of the ancient people's lives. Some suggest the 4 branches represent nature, the goddess, the self, and wisdom. Do the 4 branches represent paths which lead to a centre, the circle of the cross, perhaps a meeting place where humans and gods and goddesses come together, where unification, totality and wholeness happens? The 2 branches vary. Instead of 4 branches, maybe it is 2, 1 vertical, 1 horizontal. The horizontal represents us on this earth, the vertical the path to the divine, to the heavens. The Celtic Sun Cross, or the circle is the sun. The cross represents the earth. In ancient Egypt, it is a cross hieroglyph that represents the world, planet Earth. Kirkmagod Cross House. Upon these rude and weathered stones, we are able to see and to touch the very handwork of those whose skilled fingers have crumbled into dust more than 1,000 years ago. These words were spoken in 1907 at the dedication of this cross house. It had been opened in 1906. The speaker was Mr. P.M.C. Commode. P.M.C. Commode. He was the man responsible for collecting all these crosses together and for making this cross shed. He also wrote and illustrated a booklet, The Art of the Manx Crosses. He writes that the oldest Manx cross was dated approximately to the 7th century and is a memorial of Ernet, a monastic bishop. The G-Row symbol is often used on these crosses. This is an image of Christ's name. Now many of these stones have different names upon them. Some are Welsh, some are Viking, such as Rulwa or Rolf, Scandinavian type names. And some of them have Christian motifs as well as more Viking type style drawings. On one of these crosses there is written the name of a Welsh prince who apparently took refuge on the island, and this stone is dated to before 825 AD. One of the Christian style stones actually has runic inscriptions on it, which read Christ, Malachi, Patrick and Adamnan, but of all the sheep is John Priest in Cornerdale. It is thought these are referred to ancient Irish saints. It is said these runes were cut by John the Priest. I'm trying to see if there's much difference between the Celtic Ogham script and the Norse runes. There is one stone with an ancient Manx representation of a Viking ship, and written on it in runes, heading set this cross to the memory of his daughter Hlif, Arni carved these runes. Another of these stones is known as the Sea God stone, which is dated to the 12th century, and it shows episodes from the hero's saga, including Loki heaving stones at the otter, Sigurd's treasure chest, which he won when he slew the dragon Fafimi. St Michael's Church, or Kirk Michael. This is to be found on the route between Peel and Ramsey. Inside this church there are many crosses all set in like a little museum. They date from the 7th to the 11th century and were found in various burial places. Some are known as Jolf's Cross, others have the name Grimm's Cross. The male Lunkin Cross is covered in lines. As you can see, they are quite weathered and some are broken. Some have the fantastic Celtic spirals and drawings on them, known as the Dragon's Knot. These crosses have intricate interlacing up the body of the cross and around the actual circle. PMC Commode also helped gather all these crosses together, and he writes about the intricately ornamented faces on many of these crosses, all done in the Celtic style. It's also known as the Manx ring chain, this pattern that goes round the crosses. It has again intricate double interlacing, and all of this is in high relief. Again, many of these crosses have Scandinavian runic writing written on them. Some of these crosses seem to have dragons on them, others men, though some look more bird-like. One can become quite spellbound when one looks at these crosses, studying the intricate patterns, looking at the strange creatures carved into them. The twists and rings, designs are magical, and maybe they are paths into another land, into another realm. But not all these crosses were grave markers. So one does wonder why they were around the country. Were they signposts to ley lines? Were they markers as entrances to the next realm? Maybe a mystical land? Or were they depicting something else? Celtic cross with your weaving design, your holy circle graces us and gives the path to the divine.